Do you grow out of ADHD? Oh, this one.
No.
Hi, my name is Christine.
I'm Lizzie.
I'm here to talk about ADHD.
Yeah, ADHD in women, ADHD in adults.
Yeah.
Big topic. Okay, so first question. What is ADHD?
ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So it means that you can be hyper, you can have concentration issues, sometimes you can have learning disabilities. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ADHD is a lot more than people probably think it is. There's sensory processing disorders that go with it. There's emotional dysregulation, higher executive dysfunctioning, all kinds of different things that all tie under ADHD that people don't really think about. So ADHD is broad, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Are there specific diagnostic criteria to do with ADHD?
Yeah, but most of the diagnostic criteria is around kind of classroom disruptions. So like interrupting and, bad behaviour in classrooms and stuff. And it's honestly quite reductive of what ADHD actually is and doesn't really apply to adults or anybody not in school.
Yeah, and the criteria, it has to go on for at least, persistent for at least 6 months. Hyperactivity, concentration issues in the classroom, and if you're disturbing other people as well. So that's how they diagnose you, but I can't remember most of what they asked me during my diagnosis because I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old and I'm 23 now. So yeah, it's a long time ago.
Wow, 5.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I was diagnosed when I was 14.
Yeah, a lot of people have been diagnosed late or haven't been diagnosed at all now. It's more difficult to get a diagnosis. Like my parents pulled strings to get my diagnosis because I was adopted and there was epilepsy in my family. So they actually went to see if I had epilepsy, but turns out I have ADHD and I don't have seizures, obviously. So that's the reason why my diagnosis was so quick at 5 years old. It's very rare to get it that early.
100%. My mom has ADHD and she was like the most typical case that you could think of. She didn't get diagnosed till she was in her 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and especially as women, it's people don't think that we can have it, but yeah, it does happen to women.
So the next question: do you get distracted all the time?
Oh, absolutely. Like now I'm a college student now and I find myself very distracted in the classroom. I'm either not looking at the lecture projector, I'm like looking at across the room, looking at other people, and then usually now because of I have a phone, I'm always on my phone. When I was in primary school, obviously there was no phone, so I was just away with the fairies, is the saying. And when I get home, like I say that I need to do my assignments, like they're due in 1 week, but I find myself procrastinating and getting easily distracted by other things, even not just Netflix, it's just like everything. Like I could be going on YouTube, looking up tutorials and everything like that. It's very distracting. Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's always distractions like in the environment.
Yeah.
I feel like when you have ADHD, they're all like turned up, so it's harder to not pay attention to them. It's harder to regulate your attention on what you're supposed to be focusing on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially if it's not taking your interest as much. So, yeah.
Yeah. Next question. Do you grow out of ADHD? Oh, this one.
No. I feel like because it was so commonly diagnosed as like a disorder for young, energetic boys, people don't really think of adults as having it.
Yeah.
And even in like scientific journals and papers that I've read, it says that you grow out of ADHD as you get older. Adults don't have ADHD, but from the lived experiences of people with ADHD, a lot of people find it gets worse. I found
Yeah.
my ADHD's gotten worse as I've gotten older. So definitely don't grow out of it.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, obviously now that I'm an adult, my ADHD, when I was younger, I was very immature. I was very hyper. I would be, disrupting the classroom by running up and down. Obviously now that I'm an adult, I'm not going to do that in a lecture hall. I do have temptations to do it, but I'm not going to do it because I'll be very embarrassing. But yeah, you don't grow out of ADHD. A lot, even medical people think that you can grow out of ADHD. I know when I was trying to get supports into college, they're like, I'm pretty sure that your symptoms have changed now that you're an adult. But I was like, no, it's the same. I do have concentration issues. I do have learning disabilities. I might not be as hyper as I used to be, but I still need those supports. So I can't really find another diagnosis. I can't get re-diagnosed to get those supports. You can take my 2005 report because that explains exactly what I'm going through. So yeah, you don't grow out of ADHD at all.
I think as well because they haven't really studied as much what hyperactivity looks like in adulthood.
Yeah.
So people think that it's not hyperactivity when it is.
Yeah.
It just looks different.
Absolutely. Like I'm very hyper when I'm at home in my own comfort place because, my parent, like I'm not going to get really much judgment from my parents. What I do fear is getting judgment from my peers, my friends, because some of them don't have a hidden disability, so they don't know what I'm going through, and they just think that that's me being weird. So I know I can control myself when I'm in public, but when I'm at home, I let it all loose.
I'd be the exact same.
Yeah.
Masking, so basically not showing symptoms. So like in public, I wouldn't do auditory stims and stuff. I might do like a bit of leg tapping and stuff, but that would be pretty much the extent of it. Or if I'm finding it hard to focus on something or on someone, I can pretend. I've gotten very good at pretending that I can focus. So kind of ways that I hide the symptoms that I'm suffering when I'm around people.
Yeah.
Would you feel that you kind of do that?
Yeah, I'm a totally different person when I'm around my friends, and I'm a different person when I'm with my parents. Because now that I'm in a professional space, I'm in university, I also have like a job, I can't be myself. So, and yeah, like I always say, yeah, when somebody's talking to me, even though sometimes I do not realize what they're saying. And then I'm so embarrassed that I don't ask them. And then like maybe days later I'll ask, oh, what did you say again? So yeah, like I mask as well.
How do you stay focused on one task?
I don't know. Like I usually like leave things to the last minute, so that means I have to get it done. Mm-hmm. So that's how I focus, and I find that my work actually is good when I leave it to the last minute and I'm under pressure. That's how I focus on it when I know that my deadline is like right now or tomorrow. That's how I can focus. I'm really good at focusing, obviously, on movies because it's fun. It's like a hobby, really. But yeah, that's kind of how I focus. It's, I'm not good at focusing, but, once there's a deadline, once there's something that I'm interested in, that's how I can focus.
Yeah, 100%. Motivation definitely driven by urgency and interest. I feel like sometimes as well, I actually just can't focus. So I have to just go away and come back to something. Sometimes it's not happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes music helps. Although it depends on the type of music I'm listening to.
Yeah, I would be the same. Like music, I always have my Spotify on in the background. And yeah.
Music's a good one. Like sometimes I can use it to distract part of my brain so that I can focus, if that makes sense. Or sometimes just instrumental music just so my brain can calm down a little bit. It just depends on how busy my brain is on a given day, I guess. And obviously I take my ADHD medication as well. So that can help obviously sometimes.
I haven't taken that in a while. I'll go to the next question. I heard ADHD is a male disorder. What do you think about that?
I'm going to say no. I think because kind of historically it was always I think in the beginning it was a male disorder. So then it kind of self-perpetuated in that they only diagnosed men with it.
Yeah.
Even though they realised that women actually have it too. And especially, you know, they really haven't studied what it looks like as much in women. Most of the studies are about men.
Yeah.
Are about young men. So they don't actually know what hyperactivity looks like in women.
Yeah.
So even you'll hear it that hyperactivity is less common in women, which is not. It's less diagnosed in women. So yeah, it's definitely not a male disorder.
Yeah. Well, we're two women here speaking about ADHD, so it's clearly not a male disorder. But yes, like historically, it was always males being diagnosed. And I, you know, when you said that, you know, hyperactivity isn't really seen in women, it actually reminds me of when my friend who has undiagnosed ADHD told me that she had ADHD, and I told my mom that, oh my God, my friend has ADHD as well. And she said, my mom said that she can't have ADHD. She's so quiet and professional and doesn't fidget. And I was like, like, just because she's not showing you those symptoms doesn't mean when she's with me that, you know, she's different.
100%.
So even other women think that it's you know, it's always about hyperactivity. But yeah, it's like women have it. I know more women with ADHD than I know males right now. One of my best friends from childhood is who's a male, does have ADHD. He was the first person I found had ADHD, but after, you know, communicating with other people, I find more women have ADHD, and we're just as hyper as males are.
100%.
It's just that we're really good at masking it as well in public. So yeah, it's a disorder for everyone.
It's all inclusive.
Yeah.
What is the biggest misconception about ADHD?
Well, one of them is that it's only for males. Another one is that it's, you know, you're a hyper, you fidget all the time. And that's not the case with everyone. People think that people with ADHD are the crazy ones, the class clown and everything like that. And like, I hated that stereotype about ADHD. There's much more to ADHD. We obviously, you know, you can have depression with ADHD. You can have anxiety. I myself have anxiety with my ADHD. It's you know, it's not a disorder to be ashamed about. Like, I know when I was younger, people were like, "Don't tell anyone you have ADHD." But no, it's not something to be ashamed about. Once you learn how to manage it, and you know, learn to be with your friends and tell your friends, then it's much easier, because people know that if the reason why you're so quiet, or if the reason why you're so talkative, and the reason why you're interrupting everyone is because you have ADHD. And once they learn about it, it's so much better. Would you?
100%.
Yeah.
I think as well, one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's just for the classroom.
Yeah.
It's a classroom disorder.
Yeah.
I can safely say ADHD affects every single part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's affected my mental health. Like, I have anxiety, I've had depression. It affects my emotional regulation. It affects all my schoolwork. It affects my relationships with people. Like, it impacts on every part of my life. It is, the scope of ADHD is so huge, and it's so much bigger than people think. So yeah.
Absolutely.